Angelique grew up with a passion for far-off places. She dreamed of traveling and going places no one has ever been before. When she was old enough, she created her first job down at the docks selling tickets to rides in her little John boat. Funny thing was, the people she took out came back with the biggest fish. As a matter of fact, one time in particular was so notorious it made the town news. No one is really sure of the details, but the way the story goes is she was out on the river as usual with her client. A tornado whips up out of nowhere, lifts up the little John boat with Angelique and the client holding on for dear life. It swirls them back to the docks, and the two of them safe and sound. But the funny thing was, the whole John boat was full of fish. Yup, hundreds of them. She charges by the fish. And after she got done suing him for full payment on all fish within the John boat, she retired, stating it was too dangerous a profession. By the time she became a teenager, she was working for the local river paddle boat. She was working the ticket booth, but one day hoped to get on board the actual vessel. She did ride it a couple of times and realized it was on a very repetitive route, and she quickly lost interest in that endeavor. Angelique had already moved on to bigger and better things. She was fascinated with flight and wanted to be a stewardess. She wanted to travel the world and see it all. She applied to several airlines, and to her surprise, one of them accepted her application. So off she went. Over the course of the time she spent with the airline, she flew to many exotic places, only she flew them over and over and over again. And she was there, especially in most places, for only an hour or two. She couldn't even leave the airport. Most routes had her back home at night, and the ones that didn't stopped at the same overnight locations over and over and over again. And even so, by the time she got there and checked in to the hotel, it was already late, about just enough time to get a late night dinner and call it a night. And in the morning, it was already time to go. Either way, she did enjoy being able to see what she did. And of course, she always had time off and could fly on her airline for free anywhere they went. So that was a huge bonus. Years went by, and Angelique was pondering a career move. A traveler that flies with her often has gotten to know her. He has a cruise ship operation that he thinks she would be perfect for. She would be responsible for the fleet and travel amongst them via her own chopper. The offer sounds enticing, but working for the airline has so many benefits, she tells him she has to think it over. A week or two later, Angelique is on a routine flight. It's the middle of the day, and no one would expect anything bad to happen on such a perfect sunny day. The pilot radios in for a landing and gets clearance, so the plane starts its descent. Before you could blink an eye, a sonic boom goes off. The plane starts spiraling out of control and losing altitude. The oxygen masks drop from the overhead compartments, with all the lights and sirens are going off. Total chaos as people of all ages are screaming and crying. Oh, and don't forget yelling and cussing. Angelique puts an oxygen mask on the elderly lady in front of her, and she begins to breathe. A young man grabs her by the arm. What did you do? I am giving her oxygen, sir. Be calm. She is doing fine now. Her breathing has been restored, and if you give me some room, I will check her pulse. Oh, are you a doctor? Sir, please, now is not the time. Just then the plane levels off, but smoke clouds are so heavily formed around them that you cannot see a thing. That event went down in history and was on national television. The whole landing without the landing gear was scary, but most everyone survived. After that, Angelique had no problem making up her mind and took that cruise ship offer real quick. So quick that she never boarded another airplane. She had the chopper come pick her up at the airport she crash landed at. Now this was the life. Weeks on end, out at sea, basking in the sun. Multiple days spent in countless destinations, ports of interest, and all that within a helicopter ride of practically any major or minor location or city she might want to go visit. Her life had truly transformed from that little girl with a John boat to the woman she is now, well traveled, educated, and groomed. Weeks turn into months that turn into years, and Angelique is content with seeing the world while working. Truly a dream come true. And even though her ship got bigger and her rivers became oceans, she still knew where to catch the biggest fish. Which leads us to this amazing tall tale. The way legend tells it, Angelique had just landed her helicopter on the new cruise ship that had just been added to the fleet. No sooner than she steps out of the chopper and it blows over. Then the wind just wiped it right off that ship. Angelique and the pilot were safe and had made it inside. But by then the waves were crashing something wicked and the rains were becoming unbearable. The captain informs them that a storm has formed and risen out of nowhere, and it is about to get worse. The waves slam the vessel over and over like a toy in the bathtub. Angelique asked the cabin about the status of the lifeboats, and he enlightened her that since this was just a propaganda voyage for publicity, there were a lot of things not operational, one of them being there were no lifeboats on board, period. To which she replied with a reference to another vessel who had embarked without being fully operational, and everyone knew how that turned out. The ship started taking on water. The storm was just too intense. The captain had already turned the vessel around, and they were headed back to shore. Luckily, they were not that far out. Angelique rode out the storm with everyone else. Some, even those more seaworthy than her, were getting seasick because of the motion. But she held out. The ship limped back into dock, where Angelique handed in her resignation. This job was getting too dangerous. She found herself in a strange place all of a sudden. It was home, or more importantly, her home country. She had spent all her years traveling to other places, far off worlds, that she realized she was unfamiliar with her own country and territory. But that didn't last long, as she quickly accepted a job offer with a train company. She spent the rest of her working days riding that train all across the continent. By then, she knew just about where every rock, valley, or creek were located and had a story to go with each one. Every day was an adventure for Angelique, and she lived every moment of her life like that. No regrets. She would sometimes look out the train window as they were traveling the countryside, and she would wonder how her life may have been different if she had never left home and had become a housewife and mother. On this day, as she was looking out the window, she saw something she did not expect to see. Across the river was another train, and it looked like it was headed for a head-on collision. She ran car to car as she tried to make her way to the engine room. The engineer was not responding to the phone or radio. She also could not get in contact with the other train. She was only 3 cars away when it happened. The 2 trains struck each other head-on as they were both crossing the bridge. Her train, the passenger one, was pushed off, and the first 10 cars went off the tracks and into the river. Devastation was everywhere, and it all happened so fast. Angelique, lying on the muddy shoreline, looks up at a hand that is reaching down to her. "Here, miss, let me help you. How do you feel?" Fine, I guess. I work on that train. I need to help." "Not in your condition. The authorities are already here, and everyone is being attended to." Angelique looks up at him and takes his hand. "Do I know you? You look kind of familiar." "I don't think so, miss." "Wait, I know you. You were on a plane I was once on. You were with an elderly lady that I helped with her oxygen. You were a lot younger back then, but you still look almost the same. Must be why I recognized you." "Who are you, and where are you taking me?" "My name is Gabriel, and I am taking you home."